Venom is still alive, and he and his pal Eddie will have to stop a serial murderer, who, in addition to dating a lady with superpowers, has another symbiote inside of him that is far more powerful than Venom. That is why, today, we recap Venom, Let There Be Carnage. The story begins in 1996 at St. Estes Reform School in California, where we meet Cletus, a serial killer, who is held captive with his girlfriend Frances, who has superpowers, and when he asks her what the doctor told her, she says that the mutations and powers are progressing, and she's extremely fearful that they'll take her to another place where there are others like her, and she was right to be afraid, because even though Cletus becomes enraged, some guards take Frances away. On the way, she uses her ability to manipulate sound to attack the guards, but this guy manages to shoot her, after which she arrives at the hospital and is welcomed to her new home. Back in the present, Frances is imprisoned in Ravencroft, a mental institution for the criminally insane, where some doctors come in to serve her with precautions so she doesn't harm them with her superpower, and it appears that every day they give her the newspaper where she follows the news of her boyfriend Cletus. It's unclear whether he'll be condemned to death or not. In the meanwhile, our protagonist, Eddie Brock, is still working as a journalist, and we find that Cletus wants to talk to him, and because this may help them figure out where the rest of the corpses are buried, the detective advises that he go, and even though the Venom wants to attack the detective at first, Eddie manages to contain him in the toilet, and then he ends up saying he'll go later. Eddie pays him a visit in San Quentin jail, and Cletus tells him that all he wants is to send a message to his followers, and in exchange for that, he'll give him his life story because he'll reveal all his secrets, and his profession as a journalist will be restored. So Eddie accepts, and Cletus gives him the wording he wants on the top page: "Distant cathedral is all I see, fractures angel the other part of me." What's more, despite the fact that we have no idea what that phrase means, Eddie manages to get it on the front page of the newspaper, which his girlfriend Frances reads. Oh, and before leaving, Venom tells Eddie to look at Cletus's drawings on the wall, which our protagonist doesn't understand, and ends up leaving while Cletus tells him not to forget about him. Back at home, Venom begins replicating all of Cletus's drawings. He draws a few things that Eddie doesn't understand, but Venom instructs him to pay attention. After looking up a few things on the internet, they realize that one of the drawings is where the bodies that we're missing were buried, so the cops go find a bunch of bodies and start interviewing Eddie because he's the only person Cletus talks to. The detective becomes enraged, because the investigation was done by a journalist, rather than the cops, and they also confirmed the death penalty for Cletus, so the two of them are also enraged. At night, Venom tells him that they should start going out and catching criminals, so he can eat them. He also tells him that he wants to be free and stuff like that, plus he's hungry and doesn't want to eat the chickens, because they became his friends. At one point, the relationship is not going to last and they go to look for food, but Mrs. Chen has no more chocolate, so even though Venom wants to eat human brains, Eddie takes him to eat chickens. They come across a thief, and Venom tries to eat him, but Eddie stops him, and throws him in the trash. Later, his ex-girlfriend Anne calls him, and as Venom misses her, Eddie answers. She tells him that she needed some time after everything that happened in the first movie, and if you didn't watch the summary, I'll leave it up here, and finally asks him if they can get together to talk. The next night, and Venom is relieved it's done with the doctor, whose voice is that of a woman who has just been viciously abandoned. The next night, he goes to a restaurant but the talk gets awkward. There they talk about things that no one is interested in, and at one point, she tells him that she wanted to talk to him because she's about to get married. Apparently, she's getting married to her new boyfriend Dan, and even though Eddie tells her he's happy for her, although Venom is sadder than ever. After that, she finds him weird and asks if Venom is still inside him, but he says no and that he died at the end of the first movie, though after a while talking and telling him that he's not ready for commitments, she seems to realize that Venom is still inside him, so she tells Venom to take care of Eddie, and after that they leave. After that, they ride around on a motorcycle for a while, and Venom tells Eddie not to worry, that he'll help him get out of this one, and to relax a little. Venom does what he does best, he cooks for Eddie, and at one point he grabs the mail and receives a letter from Cletus, in which he tells him that he invites him to witness his execution, and his final moments on Earth, and that he is the reason for his end. If you like the video, please don't forget to subscribe and like and comment below if you want us to recap any movie. And that they're going to stop his heart, like when he was born, but if he hadn't been revived, at the time, he wouldn't have killed his grandmother, mother, and dog, and thus he wouldn't have been beaten by his father, and sent to reform school, where he met his girlfriend. So the next day, Eddie and Venom go to visit Cletus in jail. Eddie tapes the interview, and Cletus talks to him about the consequences of our actions. He also informs them that they are the same person, and that they are both family. He asks if he wants anything, and the evil person desires for him to be alone for the rest of his life, just like him. So he continues telling him things to make Venom upset, until the symbiote attacks him and Cletus bites him, and he discovers that Eddie has something within him that isn't blood. After that, Eddie and Venom have a fight where Venom tells him that everything he has accomplished is because of him, but they end up fighting, and Venom tries to kick him out of the house by throwing all of his belongings in the street. Finally, Eddie is free, but he hears noises and notices that Venom has broken his entire motorcycle, and Venom also passes into the body of a woman riding a bicycle. The next day is the death of Cletus. He says his last words, and he's injected with a lethal dose, but something strange starts to happen. Carnage appears and kills the first policeman, and after that, he goes to look for the mayor, killing a lot of people who are just working, and after that finally Cletus escapes with his new symbiote, named Carnage. The next day, Eddie already enjoys his life without Venom. He starts to fix his apartment, frees the chickens, and meanwhile, Venom walks around the city quietly at night. Eddie sees on TV that the serial killer, Cletus, has escaped, and the detective appears and begins to doubt him, but he tells him that he doesn't know anything, and in the end the detective doesn't tell him anything and leaves, after which Eddie begins to listen to the recording of the last time he saw Cletus, but he doesn't understand a thing, while Venom continues his search for a compatible body, and along the way this man dies too. He then moves on to the body of another man who luckily was at a costume party. Cletus and Carnage kill another person, and Cletus steals a car and starts talking to his symbiote, and since Carnage wants to kill Venom, and Cletus wants to find his girlfriend, they decide to help each other, and on the way, they throw a van over the bridge, for no apparent reason, so I guess they killed at least one person there. Meanwhile, Eddie continues his investigation, and goes to the starting reform school, where he phones a detective, because he saw the couple's initials on a tree, and asks him if he knows a lady with the initials FB, and he tells him her name, but also that he was the one who murdered her many years ago. There, Cletus introduces her to Carnage, and the two of them smash the cell and escape, killing 6 guards along the way. They then escape in the car until Carnage starts attacking the cops, when Frances used her superpower. The problem is that Carnage is sensitive to sound, so he tells her not to do it anymore. So he handles the next helicopter, after which Venom comes practically dead, begging the Chinese woman for chocolate, implying that the person who wasn't suitable perished as well. After all of this, a detective asks Eddie why odd things usually happen around him. Eddie realizes that Cletus bit his hand that time, and starts to grasp everything, so he phones his ex-girlfriend, and informs her that the serial murderer also has an alien within him, and that everyone now needs to locate Venom. After that, she goes to look for him at the Chinese market and realize that Venom is inside Mrs. Chen, so she ends up convincing him, and together they go to find Eddie. Meanwhile, Cletus sets on fire the reform school, and now they go to look for the detective who took Frances's eye. Venom and Eddie. After that, she enters with Venom and takes him out of the police station. On the way, Venom and Eddie reconcile their friends. Again, the detectives cross paths with Carnage and Eddie, and they kidnap him to take him to Frances. Then she enters Eddie's apartment and sees Anne's picture with the engagement ring, so now they go looking for her too. Dan calls Eddie, tells him they kidnapped Anne and are going to the wedding. What wedding? I mean the one between Cletus and Frances, because they kidnapped a priest, and now they want to get married. Then Eddie shows up with Venom, and it looks like he's gonna start fighting, but Venom is a little scared because Carnage is too powerful. Let's go now. Congratulations to the happy couple. In the end, Eddie convinces Venom, and it starts what we all expected, an endless fight between computer-created monsters. At one point, Frances is about to kill the detective, when Carnage interrupts her, to tell her to stop screaming, and he also uses the opportunity to eat the priest, for no apparent reason. Meanwhile, the detective flees, and all of our protagonists continue to fight. In the middle of the battle, we learn that Cletus despises Eddie because as a journalist, he never explained his evil, nor did he talk about when he was a boy, and was abused by his family anyway. This doesn't matter much. What matters is the final fight between monsters and humans. And now, after a long fight, Carnage is dead. Cletus's end comes, who before dying, says that all he wanted was his friendship. After that, Anne leaves with her boyfriend, and the police arrive to the place. Finally, Eddie and Venom are still friends, and they go on vacation to a beach, as Venom had asked, and the two of them are happy on a beach. But wait, of course there's more, because in the post-credits scene, we see Eddie watching TV. There Venom says that everyone has a hidden past, and he has 80 billion light years of knowledge. The point is that, there he gives him a taste of the things that the symbiotes experienced. But right at that moment, something weird happens and they're teleported to another place. Venom says he didn't do anything, and apparently this was all because of what Doctor Strange did, and now they're in Spider-Man's universe. That was Venom. Let there be carnage. Don't forget to like and subscribe.